Meeting is
Oh, okay. Thank you for your patience. We are having some technical difficulties getting our Chair Pro Tem online. So we are going to go ahead and do a call to order. If I can just have the commissioners raise their hand if they can agree to call the meeting to order as a majority body. Thank you. Miley, if you can do roll call.
Commissioner Benyamin?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Campopiano?
Here.
Commissioner Firestein?
Here.
Commissioner Hennessy?
Here.
Commissioner Russo?
Here.
Commissioner Washington?
Here.
And Chair Pro Tem Bandrick.
He is present, but having technical difficulties for the record. Commissioner Firestein, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
We're supposed to stand?
I believe.
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. I don't think we have John quite yet online. So we will go to our next item to continue forward is the nomination and election of chair and chair pro tem. As this is mostly a new body of members, typically what happens is you can nominate yourself, you can nominate one of your colleagues, and we can do the chair first and the chair pro tem after. They can be done jointly. So it's really up to the body of how it wants to be driven. But with that, I, as a staff member, are going to step back and let the commission discuss and decide where they want to go with the chair and chair pro tem for this year.
Can I make a suggestion real quick?
Sure.
So I suggest that we do the chair first and then pro tem second, as I know there's members who would prefer to do one and not the other.
Yeah, I think that's what you said, chair first and then pro tem second.
But does anyone know what John B's feeling? I mean, I feel like this is kind of hard to do without him being able to weigh in on the conversation. Is there a way we could move the item until he gets online?
We can do that if it's okay. There's a couple. What we'll do is have to rearrange the agenda a little bit because there's a couple items that I need Chair Pro Tem Bandrick to weigh in on, specifically the minutes. At least that's item 2A. But we can move forward, and then maybe once John gets back online, we can come back to this. I would be fine doing that. If this is the commission okay with that? By raise of hand, everyone
Yes.
okay? Okay. So with that, Miley, why don't we go to, we will go to item 2. We'll have to go to 2B, C, and D. And these are just meeting minutes.
Okay, can I move that we approve items B, C, and D, which are minutes from August 26th, two minutes from August 26th and one from September 2nd, approve all 3 of those at one time? So is there a second?
I second that.
Call for the vote.
Okay, I can hear you guys.
Show hands.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Can you
that
guys hear me
passes.
now?
Miley, did you get that vote?
Yes, we can hear you, John.
We can hear
Oh,
you.
good, thank you.
Can you hear us?
I don't know what
Yes.
the plan is.
Okay, John, so we actually, we will go back now to item 1, which is the nomination and election of chair and chair pro tem. And then we'll have to hit back again on item 2A, but we've moved through 2B through D are already passed. So John, I will kick it to you as chair pro tem to discuss the chair and chair pro tem elections. Thank you. Go ahead, John. I think you're on mute still.
John, you're on mute unless you're dialed in.
There I go. Okay, now I got it. Okay, nominations open. Anyone? For the,
I think Terry, did you discuss what was your comment regarding you wanted to do chair pro tem first and then chair, or what was the commission's
Yeah, I
feeling
thought
on
you had
this?
mentioned two options. I was thinking since John was not there, I know that there's panelists here or commissioners here that would be interested in doing one and not the other. So could we do them separately?
Absolutely. Would you? Okay. John, I'll let you run this if you're good with it. I'm going to step out.
yeah, let's do the chair first and then we'll do the chair.
He might have to turn his phone or something off. He's getting feedback.
John has a horrible feedback. It repeats I hear it 4 times. Every word he says, I hear it 4 times.
Okay. Can you hear me still now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I got that.
Do you have a
Okay,
phone
so
on?
nominations open for chair.
Real quick, before we get going, this is IT. Sorry to interrupt, but we're getting really bad feedback on our end on the recording. So Commissioner Bandrick, you need to unmute your phone, but mute your video. You have it in reverse.
Yeah, well, the only way I can hear is my phone right now.
So John, you'll need to mute your computer then.
Okay, mute my computer.
Okay, unmute your computer and mute your phone.
Unmute that and mute my phone. Okay, try that one.
Not working.
Okay, try that.
That's good.
That's
Hey,
Okay, I think we're ready to move forward. So John, there's a desire to separate the nomination and election of the chair pro tem from the chair. The commission can decide which they'd like to do first. That's where we've left off. John, please, you have the floor.
well, let's take nominations for chair first. Any nominations for the chair? Rob?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Joreen for our chair. She's an environmental scientist. Do we need a second before I move forward? Or?
No.
Okay.
He's nominated.
Previously worked for the EPA for Ventura County, I believe. I don't know if anybody noticed, but during her earlier discussions, she kind of had a focus on sustainability items, which is something that I don't think much about. And I appreciated that for her perspective on that. So
Okay.
I nominate Joreen.
Any other nominations?
Can I talk
No,
or
we can't
respond to
talk.
that?
Oh,
So while I appreciate your confidence in me, I just really don't feel like a chairmanship is in my best interest right now, just because of, how busy I am, and I know what I'd want to put into it, I wouldn't be able to as your chair. So I'd be very open to vice chair, or I guess we're calling it chair pro tem, but the chairmanship is not something that I'm really interested in.
okay.
So
Thank you
why
for
don't we,
this.
before nominations are made, raise your hand if you're interested in being the chair. Would that work?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll nominate myself. I've been on the board for, this is my 8th year. I've been chair pro tem for 7. I've ran several of the meetings in the absence of our Steve Strager, who was here for a while. And I am familiar with the background over the last many years. So as far as many of the meetings go. So
I
I'll
second.
leave that at that.
I would just like to speak. I don't need to nominate, or I just think, I think, look, this is what I do for a living. I deal with local, state, and federal government on a daily basis, and as a lawyer and as a scientist, as a geologist. In fact, I'm in Mexico right now on a consulting matter, trying to help Cabo San Lucas save their beaches. And I do this all over the state of California, and I've done this all over the world. So my concentration with Jareen, I think you guys know Jareen's the reason I joined the commission. She and I used to work together at UC Santa Cruz 20 years ago. She was actually my student at one point. And we are already working with the mayor and the rest of the city council on a very high level, trying to save our beaches. And of course, the parks are another very separate item that's very important. And there's obviously a lot of discussion to be had on that. And then there's recreation, which also needs attention. For example, our pools are closed from 12 to 3:30 p.m., which is a horrible time to close our pools. So there's room for improvement on beaches, parks, and recreation. My concern with, for example, the way this evening has gone so far, it's not anybody's fault. It just is what it is. I think the meetings need to be run by somebody who understands parliamentary procedure, who understands how to move meetings on efficiently, who is going to help us help each other, because I would love to see this group of people who I don't barely know, except for Jareen and a little bit of John, just because we have a mutual friend, Doug Dill, who's a former San Clemente High School football star and history teacher and football coach and baseball coach. And so I know him a little bit through the community too. And so it's not about titles or anything to me. I'm happy to participate in as well. I already am. I mean, Jareen and I are putting in a ton of hours together at a very high level, even working with Congressman Levin at this point. And so I kind of agree with Jareen. I don't want to necessarily be I think I'm qualified to be, the chair, but at the same time, perhaps my efforts are better spent, on a very, sophisticated, targeted, agenda and approach and methodology with Jareen.
Ben, are you would you like to nominate yourself then?
Not necessarily, because I don't really want to do that. If the group thinks that's important, well, here's the thing. I'm going to be out representing the commission with Jareen at a lot of important regional meetings in the next weeks and months, because the plan is not to just deal with this as a city. We live in an area that geologically involves a lot of jurisdictions. And so I'm happy to go out to these meetings with Mayor Ward and Congressman Levin and Jareen, and just be a commissioner. I don't need to be the chair of the committee. I don't think that does anything to solve any problems. It just, again, I think it comes back to parliamentary procedure, and also in the interest of being efficient and conservative, of all of our time and effort. I'll just shut up at this point, because I think I've made my point.
Okay, I like Terry's idea. We all know everybody's resume from when we were competing for these positions. I like the fact, I'm just gonna say, we put it out there. I like what she said, everybody put their hand up that's interested in being, the chair or the chair pro tem. I like John as I'll just say my input would be John, and then I would go with Terry as the pro tem. I mean, that's if she wants to do it, but let's find out. Like she said, start with the chair. Who wants to be it? Not me. Keep going.
So
Go ahead, Terry.
John and Terry would be wanting to be the chair. Is that correct?
Either.
Either.
Okay, either, okay. Well, let's vote for the office of chair first, because that's what we agreed on, and then we'll go to chair pro tem. Let's see. Okay, we
So
have.
you already nominated yourself, John. So all we need
Right.
is a second on that, right?
I
Terry, do you want to
I don't
nominate
think-
yourself?
I did
Sure.
nominate myself. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, John.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you,
And
Aaron.
then do we need a
Okay, and
nomination
then-
for Terry? Because I'll nominate
Terry?
Terry for chair.
Thank you.
I'll
Okay,
second.
any other nominations for chair?
I will second both of you. You know, I'm going to actually abstain because I would rather the rest of you decide. I don't have a strong feeling because I don't know either of you too well. And again, it just comes down to procedure and involvement. And I think you're both equally talented and involved. So I don't know what else I would say.
Okay, any others? Or we will close the nominations for chair. Okay, let's hear a vote. We'll put out Terry first, and how many would like to have Terry as chair? Please raise your hand. 1,
I'm gonna laugh if I'm the only one voting for
2,
myself.
3. Okay. And then I will put myself out there as who would like to vote for myself. 1, 2, 3. So we have a
Wow,
3 to
that's a
3
tie.
tie.
That's why there's 7 people on the commission.
Ben, I
Well,
think you
yeah,
need your
Ben.
vote.
Ben didn't vote.
Oh,
Ben
geez.
decided not
Oh,
to vote.
geez. I put myself in a terrible situation here.
Did
Man,
you,
I think you gotta
Ben?
go back
There
on
you
that,
go,
Your Honor.
buddy.
Okay, so my
Ben, would you
idea,
like to vote?
my idea initially was that if you were all leaning on us for the real coastal expertise, and that Jareen and I would possibly be co-chairs. Why don't you both be co-chairs? Why do there have to be titles? What does it really matter? You can.
It doesn't matter to me, but I think for the city's sake, we need a vote for chair and a chair.
We need one commissioner in each chair. Unfortunately, we're not able to do a co-chair and a co-chair pro tem. We need one member sitting on each position.
I just don't feel comfortable. I honestly don't feel comfortable deciding because I want to get to know both these people and I don't know them. This is our first real meeting together.
I
And
withdraw my nomination of myself, and I would like to nominate myself for co-chair.
Or you mean pro
Would
tem?
that be okay with everybody?
Pro
So we
tem.
can move this.
Pro tem. Okay, good.
Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. And then nominations for co-chair.
No,
And Terry has nominated herself. I can easily second her.
pro tem. Yes,
Okay. Any other nominations for co-chair?
it's pro tem.
Pro tem.
John, you have to, John, you
Chair
have
pro
to,
tem,
no,
I
hold on a sec.
apologize.
Hold on a sec. John, if I may change my vote, you have to agree to get much better with your technology and be ready because
I was ready an hour and a half ago
No,
on here.
but-
It was working great. I
I'm
apologize, but that's
I'm
the
in,
best I
I'm
can
in
do.
your I'm in your corner, but I'm leaning towards Terry. I'm going back to Terry because she just seems much more prepared.
Okay, we've already kind of decided that we are voting for our chair pro tem.
You guys work it out.
Okay. Terry's been nominated second for chair pro tem. How many in favor of Terry, please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, vote 7-0 for Terry, chair pro tem. Okay. Well, let's keep on going here, and we have Sam. Are we up for new business then?
John, you're going to
Sam,
go
are
ahead
we
and
up
go
for
on
new
to
business?
yeah, you're going to go ahead and go on to 2A. And that I
Right.
need you, that's just going to be you, unless you object to the meeting minutes from April,
Okay, oh, we haven't done the minutes.
No,
Oh, I
we've
thought
done
you had,
2B through D, but I need
So-
you specifically to do 2A, John, unless you
Right.
object to the minutes from the April meeting.
No, I have had no
staff
objection
will
to the minutes
proceed.
for April 13th. So I hope that you've
Perfect. So
all
then you can go ahead and
reviewed the
move on.
minutes from August 26th.
John, they
when-
did touch on those already. We already handled those. So the next item
Okay.
is going to be item 3A. And then you're
Recreational
smooth sailing
activities
from
and
there.
events, Sam, that's up to you.
I have no updates at this time.
And environmental services updates? Anybody? Nope. Okay, let's go to new business. As an informational item, the city of San Clemente draft coastal resiliency plan, which we have all read through thoroughly today. And it's up to you now. Cecilia?
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you, commissioners, chair. My name is Cecilia Gallardo Daly. I'm the Community Development Director. And this is an information item. The Community Development Department has prepared a draft coastal resiliency plan that we would like to present to you tonight. City staff didn't prepare this document alone, though. It was done in partnership with our coastal planning consultant, Leslie Meyerhoff, and Moffitt and Nickel. They're an engineering firm with specialization in coastal issues. So joining me tonight for the presentation is Leslie Meyerhoff, the city's coastal plan consultant, and Jake Fickman. He's a coastal scientist with Moffitt and Nickel. We also have a presentation, so I'm hoping IT can pull up that presentation for tonight.
Pam or Miley?
Is
Who's going to pull that up?
IT available?
Samantha? Oh, do we have the,
We are working on getting that up.
okay, thank you.
You glad when the Zooms are over, huh?
Yeah, all my commissions and committees are looking forward to meeting in person.
Okay, Cecilia, if you or your consultant have the presentation, they have been given authority to share their screen.
Okay.
IT does not have the presentation.
Okay.
At this time.
All right. I sent it to IT and they said that they received it. So I actually have it on my computer, so I can do a share screen. Let me
Perfect.
pull it up first. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and I will be Oh, my screen is disabled.
Just a moment, we'll get that taken care of for you.
You should have access now, Cecilia.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so I pulled up the PowerPoint for tonight. I'm going to turn it over at this point to Leslie and Jake to go over the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia, and good evening, Commission Chair and Commissioners. I'm Leslie Meyerhoff, and I'm a coastal planning consultant for the city. I've been working with Cecilia and her team on preparing the local coastal program, of which the Coastal Resiliency Plan is one part. The purpose and overview of the San Clemente Coastal Resiliency Plan, it's intended to serve as the city's near-term and long-range planning, policy, and guidance document to address the city's near-term and long-range planning, policy, and guidance for sea level rise and its effects on the city. The purpose of the Coastal Resiliency Plan is to build on the findings and recommendations contained in the city's final sea level rise vulnerability assessment from 2019. The city's Coastal Resiliency Plan was prepared by the city with the benefit of interdepartmental review, including input from planning, engineering, public works, water quality staff, parks and rec staff, and marine safety staff. The plan was funded in part by a Coastal Commission resiliency grant, and it's basically a standalone document that is going to support the city both in the near term and the long term as the city moves forward with resiliency efforts. So as I said, the resiliency plan is a part of the local coastal program, and the goal of the local coastal program, or the LCP, is to implement the city's vision and goals with respect to the Coastal Act. One of the key requirements for the city is that the city retains local control throughout the LCP process in order to ensure that local preferences and unique conditions in San Clemente are reflected in all the planning documents. Once the city has a certified LCP, then the applicants will have more certainty with respect to local property regulations, policies, and development standards. And ultimately, having a certified LCP will help the city to streamline the permit process. Next slide, please. So just as a quick overview, the local coastal program includes both policies in the land use plan and regulations and development standards in the IP. All cities in the coastal zone are required to have an LCP. And at this point, the city's been working on an LCP for the past 5 years. The land use plan, so one half of the LCP, was certified in 2018 with a comprehensive update, and we are currently working on the component, the implementation plan. As of right now, about 75% of the cities in the state of California have a certified LCP, and the other 25, like San Clemente, are working on that process. I'm going to turn it over to Jake for the next slide, please.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, certainly.
The last bullet there said, you mentioned something about developing an implementation plan. So that will be a separate document from this?
Yes, that'll be a separate document.
Okay.
Hey everyone, I am Jake Thickman. I work with Moffitt and Nickel. I'm happy to be here to talk about the series of studies that we've done. The first one being the sea level rise vulnerability assessment. The final version of the vulnerability assessment was completed in November of 2019. The purpose of this document as a first step in the adaptation planning process was to identify the risks and the hazards to the city caused by sea level rise. We looked at multiple scenarios shown in the surfer graphic here, from 0.8 feet up to 4.9 feet to cover a number of scenarios through the end of the century, 4.9 feet being a low probability scenario by the end of the century, 3.3 feet being the upper end of the likely range, and 0.8 feet being more of a near to midterm scenario. And the hazards we were focused on were first and foremost shoreline erosion due to the layout of the city and the presence of the rail corridor backed by bluffs, and a little examination of flooding hazards as well. Next slide. So from that vulnerability assessment, we identified a number of resources that are potentially at risk in San Clemente. The general trend of the results mainly focused on erosion, where by that 0.8 foot sea level rise scenario, a pretty significant reduction in beach width was observed throughout the city. The 1 meter scenario, or 3.3 feet, throughout much of the city, the erosion line, the shoreline went back to the rail corridor and the revetment protection structures. And then 4.9 feet and beyond, we considered the possibility of the structure, the rail corridor being relocated and having greater impacts on the bluffs behind the rails. So because of the wide variety of resources located seaward of that protection line, things like public beach access and recreation were impacted. The coastal access points, once the shoreline reached that revetment structure, began to be impacted. Beach structures and amenities, such as the Marine Safety Headquarters that currently experience impacts, again, those impacts will occur more frequently and be of a greater magnitude with sea level rise. Closer to that 1 meter scenario is when the railroad operations would be more significantly impacted. Any existing impacts would increase with that lower amount of sea level rise, but when that shoreline backs up to that rock revetment fronting the rail corridor is when that would be exposed to wave impacts on a consistent basis. The municipal pier was projected to experience impacts. The sand was lost around the pier bowl area, potentially in the form of waves hitting the bottom of the pier during severe storm events. And the bluff top development was really only vulnerable once we considered the possibility of the railroad being removed because it acts as a protective structure. And we only considered that for that high-end scenario of 4.9 feet. Next slide. So our recommendations coming out of that initial study of the vulnerability assessment were is basically designed to gather information for the city to move forward in their planning process. So to conduct monitoring of sea levels via tide gauges that are operated by federal agencies, to conduct shoreline profile monitoring and seasonally in the spring and fall, just to establish a baseline of what the beach widths are now, and then, using that, you'd be able to quantify any changes in the future, either from sea level rise or from adaptation measures, to identify these long-term trends in the city. And then one of our recommendations was to prepare this coastal resiliency plan to outline a range of options that could be used by the city to help adapt over time. Next slide. So there are several ongoing resiliency efforts in San Clemente that we wanted to highlight as part of the resiliency plan. One of which being the annual winter storm berm program that occurs from November to March, which involves constructing a sand berm in high impact areas, approximately between Linda Lane and P Street, to provide a level of wave protection during the winter months when wave action is greatest. There's an ongoing resiliency study of the Marine Safety Headquarters to look at potential options to keep that structure safe going into the future. And then the largest one is this Army Corps of Engineers long-term beach sand replenishment program, which has been in the works for a number of years now. The pre-construction engineering design phase has been completed, construction funding is being pursued. The goal of this program is to maintain, it's designed to maintain a 50-foot beach width approximately between the Marine Safety Headquarters and T Street, and then taper that beach width off in like a buffer area about 300 feet either side of that. It comes with a 65% federal funding effort for the initial implementation. It's designed to be a long-term salmon replenishment program. I believe the timeline is 50 years, with renourishment occurring approximately every 5 to 10 years. And as part of our resiliency plan, we determined that this large effort that's been in the works could potentially be effective up to that 3.3 foot sea level rise scenario. And State Parks is also involved as a cost share partner. I believe the current estimate is that this construction of that project could begin in 2022. Next slide. So in the current draft of the Coastal Resiliency Plan, we wanted to build on the findings of the vulnerability assessment and the recommendations of the vulnerability assessment. The main goal is to provide this range of locally preferred adaptation strategies that take into account the coastal conditions in San Clemente and the vulnerabilities that we identified. These include a hybrid living shoreline or dune, which is pictured on the right. This dune backed with vegetation. It could have a more structural element buried beneath it as kind of a last line of defense, but in normal operation, it would appear just as a normal dune system. We also highlighted some additional sediment management activities that could be involved with opportunistic beach nourishment from sediment sources that become available either by construction projects or dredging in the surrounding area. That could be coordinated at the local level, at the county level. So we provide some details there. We also provide some details on sand retention structures, such as these cross-shore groins that can help keep any placed sand in place and not allow it to travel down the coast as quickly. And the final one we highlighted was storm drain and utility improvements to help abate any impacts from rising tide levels that could inundate storm drains at the coast. So for each one of those types of adaptation strategies, we provided implementation timelines, projected timing of when they would be effective based on the hazard projections and the vulnerability assessment, any potential benefits or costs to current resources, necessary permitting steps and potential coordination with state and federal agencies, as well as the immediate next steps to pursue if the city wanted to move forward with any of those options. Next slide. And with that, I'll hand it back to Lizia.
Thank you, Jake. In terms of the next steps, it's really receiving direction from the city in terms of the priorities for the programs and projects that are contained within the resiliency plan. And as you read through the plan, you'll see that most of these will require a significant investment of public funds because they're large scale projects. And so one of the main tools to qualify for funding to implement projects is to conduct a cost benefit analysis to make sure that it is a good use of public funds. That was done for the Army Corps project. You're probably familiar with what that looks like. The benefit cost analyses are complex undertakings and they do require coordination with other agencies, particularly those that you're going to be seeking funding from in the future. So that would include federal, state, and regional entities. Next slide, please. And importantly, sea level rise and climate change are obviously not local or unique to San Clemente. What is unique and local will be your response to these issues. But we have been, from the start of this process, coordinating with adjacent jurisdictions, including Dana Point, Camp Pendleton to the south, then the County of Orange, of course, with the North Beach project. California State Parks has been a funding partner with the city and the Army Corps for, I believe it's been about 20 years to try to implement the 50-year beach nourishment project. And then also with OCTA and the recent completion of their sea level rise study, we were participating with them as stakeholders in that group throughout their process. So coordination with these other entities continues. We're strongly encouraging it in the plan as well. Next slide, please. So just to wrap up here, the document did start its 6-week public review and comment period on October 7th, and we'll be taking comments on the draft plan until November 18th. And that is a Coastal Commission stipulated 6-week public review and comment period. So right now we're scheduled for another informational presentation with the Planning Commission on November 3rd. And then we will take all the public comments that are received and all the input received from the city and package up a final coastal resiliency plan that will be scheduled for the city council in December of this year. And then our plan is to submit a final plan to Coastal Commission before the end of 2021 as a final LCP grant deliverable. And that concludes the presentation. We are all here to take your input and address any comments or questions that you have. So thank you for your time.
Okay, items from the commission here. Do we have any input or questions to be asked here at this time?
Yeah, I made it all the way through the executive summary before tonight. I wanted to ask, just, I'm sorry, I'm on page 7. It lists 3 things that are items that are referred to as adaptation measures: accommodation, production, retreat. And I don't know why beach or sand replenishment is not in these 3 items somewhere. Could you just, I don't know if we need to talk about it in depth. I mean, somewhere in there, I think sand replenishment, since it is kind of our near-term effort, I think, it sounds like, I think that should be in this adaptation measure somewhere.
I'm just pulling up the document.
And it is. It is.
Yes, it clearly is. And on page 7, we talked about.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We list the high priority adaptation measures, and that is protection of the public beach and the related amenities. And the primary mechanism by which the city is planning to do that is obviously the Army Corps Beach Nourishment Program.
Okay, well, maybe somebody needs to look at those 3 items on page 7, because it's not listed there in those items.
Okay,
Thanks.
that's good input. Thank you.
Any others? Doreen.
Yeah, hi. So I actually read the entire thing today.
Yeah.
So it was a long document, and I actually put together pretty extensive comments, and I don't know if some of them are pretty highly detailed. And so what I did last time was I just emailed those in. So I can do that sort of in the interest of time, but I did want to say that in my opinion, I really liked the document. I thought it really outlined a lot of the measures that we need to take as a city to protect our beaches. I liked a lot of the solutions that it proposed. That there was talk about living shorelines, there was talk about beach nourishment, there was talk about structures, some engineering solutions that are needed, some cross-shore structures, et cetera. And so I think those are all things that we need to move forward on. And the other thing that I actually wanted to put forward a couple of motions tonight, because I feel like there's a couple of things that we as a city can move forward immediately on. And that is something that we had talked about originally in the sea level rise vulnerability assessment. We talked about the beach profile monitoring and also the installation of a tide gauge at the San Clemente Pier to do some baseline monitoring. And I feel like that's something the city could move forward on rather quickly. So I'd really like to see that happen. The other thing is, in the document, it talks about the need, I think it's called a cost benefit analysis or a feasibility study, and sort of similar to what other cities are doing up and down the coast. I really think we need to move forward with a feasibility study to really identify those engineering solutions and beach nourishment solutions that we need to help restore our beaches. So I'd really like to see if we could put forward a recommendation to the city council to move forward on doing a feasibility study for the city of San Clemente. And then the final thing that I wanted to put forward was there's a lot of talk in the document about the need to do coordination with other stakeholders and like do a regional coordination effort for beach nourishment. And I would really like to recommend that the city move forward with that and become a willing partner and start coordinating with some of these other entities, because that's going to be really important for funding, for cost sharing and all these sorts of things. Because if you read the report, it's actually rather alarming. We have a lot of work to do because it's not just our beaches that are in trouble. We've got the pier, we've got sewer lines, we've got all kinds of infrastructure that we're going to have to start dealing with at some point. So I'd like to see us move forward quickly on a number of those things.
Okay.
Yeah, and I second what Jareen has to say. A lot of the work she's talking about, we've done together. And I think I've worked with Moffitt and Nickel for 30 years. I know some of Jake's bosses, Russ Boudreau, and before that, Kimo Walker, who's now deceased. But, you know, they're a solid engineering firm. I like the fact that actually, Jake, that you are looking at fairly reasonable sea level rise scenarios, noting that, you know, probably from Scripps Pier, where it's been rising linearly at 2.2 millimeters for the last 120 years with no exponential uptick. That's not to say that global warming is not happening. That's not to say that sea level might not accelerate. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, look at the last 120 years, and it's actually been pretty gradual. And Jake's scenario of 0.8 feet, you know, by 2080, that's 60 years from now. And 0.8 feet, 0.3 or 3.3 feet, even 4.4, 4.9 feet by 2100. Those are scenarios that we can potentially deal with. But just the only thing I would really want to say, I don't want to talk about specific solutions other than to say, we as commissioners and as city, you know, officials need to realize that our entire infrastructure is built on the beach. The cliffs that people are fortunate to live on down by Lost Winds and Riviera and all throughout, you know, Southern California, Encinitas, you name it, they're cut by waves over, you know, thousands and millions of years as sea level rises and the coastline kind of ebbs and flows, and the beach is really a river of sand. And unfortunately, the dams in California have been dammed such that we don't get much of a natural flow to the coast. So unless we nourish, it doesn't really do anything. But beach nourishment isn't like rocket science, really. It's putting a bunch of sand on the beach in an engineered fashion. There are a couple things that really could matter. We have a beach trail, we have a railway, we have lifeguard stations, we have concessions, we have all sorts of stuff built on the beach. If you go to Capo Beach, there are homes built on the beach. The railway is built on the beach. PCH is built on the beach. Everything that is below the bluff, all between North Beach and Vaquero Avenue at Poche is on the beach. It's the back beach, the historical back beach where there would have been a dune field. And so the one thing we can do, if we're not going to get rid of the railway, if we're not going to get rid of the beach trail, which I don't think anybody I don't think those are in the cards, that we're not, what we need to do is anchor the beach nourishment to the riprap that's protecting the railway with an engineered, you know, system, a fiber-backed kind of locked-in system that raises the beach profile, which will go away with major storms. But if the back beach is engineered into the riprap with a engineered dune field, which is a green way to cover up that riprap and make the beach more accessible laterally, then we can save San Clemente beaches for the entire length of our jurisdiction. And what do we do to try to capture that at the end? Well, yes, we could put in a groin or a jetty and turn San Clemente into Newport Beach or what Oceanside wants to do, or we could be more green thinking. And there are discussions already underway about potentially creating a cobble-like delta at the south end of town, south of State Beach, but north of Cottons, where it becomes a sand retention structure, but it's not above water and it's not a bunch of riprap. It's much like trestles. In fact, it could totally improve the surf if it was designed correctly. And it could be completely amazing. It could take the wave that Cottons and extend it all the way, northward and towards State Beach and create recreational amenities at the same time, create habitat, at the same time be sand retention, such that we can retain our sand. There are ideas about creating reefs offshore, and where the reefs exist, that's pretty deep water. That would take a heck of a lot of rock to build it up to the point where it's going to dissipate wave energy. That's a major thing. The reefs that have been growing kelp, by way of the power plant, those are in pretty deep water, and those reefs are not very tall. They're nowhere near the surface. So to think that we're gonna try to dissipate wave and of course dissipating wave energy would be a very controversial thing here in San Clemente, where people love to surf all up and down the coast. So we have to be mindful of the community that we're dealing with, and we have very limited choices, in my opinion. And we've thought a lot about it, and I'm working with others, colleagues and other PhDs and people I know, people that Jake would know, about how to deal with this. But we really have very limited options, and we're running out of time because our back beach position is fixed by the riprap that protects the railway. And that doesn't have to be a totally negative thing, because we could use the beach nourishment and anchor into the riprap to create a bigger beach, a more enjoyable beach, a more recreational beach, a more beautiful beach.
Right.
And at the same time, capture that sand at the south end of town. That's all I have to say. I think this is an important kickoff moment. And I would love to show you pictures. I've been out in the field taking pictures to try to just go take a walk from North Beach up to Capo Beach. And as you're walking along the bike path there, you'll go, oh, wow, that's right. All these homes and the railway and PCH and everything is built on the geologic beach. So what are you going to do? If you're already built on, we're not going to tell these people they got to move up in Capo Beach. We can retain sand better, and we can combat sea level rise, but it has to be regional. It's not just San Clemente.
Right.
Well, that's all I have to say.
Right. I think that it's really important, a lot of the things Ben was talking about, because really anything that we put forward is going to have to, go through the California Coastal Commission and whatnot. And we want something that really does have what I'm trying to call like a marine ecosystem or shoreline ecosystem focused approach, where, we're not only benefiting the citizens of San Clemente by bringing back our sandy beaches, but you're actually also providing habitat for shorebirds, for grunion, for all kinds of species, that intertidal species that use the shoreline. And by creating, these underwater deltas, you could actually create habitat for fish and whatnot. So I think there could be multiple benefits by kind of pursuing that type of approach, and I'm supportive of doing that. And I think it would, really showcase San Clemente as, a forward-thinking city if we moved forward with that type of approach.
Thank you. Does anybody else have something?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I was trying to follow along what you were saying as far as sand replenishment, and I think you were talking about underwater groins. Is that something that you were talking about? Is that like a jetty that's underwater? I'm not quite sure what that is.
So there are cross-shore structures. There are structures that are parallel to shore. A structure that's parallel to shore would be considered an offshore breakwater.
Yeah.
A structure that's cross-shore would be considered a groin or a jetty. A groin is typically considered to be smaller than a jetty. For example, down a Mission Beach, where Mission Bay is, which is a completely artificially constructed, area. It is a tidal and a former, riverine environment, but the way that it's constructed is pretty artificial, and it's a major jetty, right? That's a jetty. Newport Beach has groin structures as opposed to jetties. Nope, the commission will not approve those. I don't think, I mean, it's just not something, one thing about groins and jetties, when you put one in, you get accretion, which means the buildup of sand on the upcurrent side, and you get scouring on the downcurrent side. That's why you need a groin field. You need one and then another and another. And so it gets scalloped. Whereas what I'm talking about is not to have something like that. That could potentially be valuable to San Clemente, especially right where the railway now, had their issue. The water's in contact with the riprap, every single day. It's rare that you could pass on the beach except at an extreme low tide along that section, which tells you and that's the down current side of our jurisdiction. In fact, most people don't even know that's not even San Clemente. That's not San Clemente's jurisdiction. That's state beach at that point. And the only jurisdiction that San Clemente has is that their residents live in Cypress Cove. But Cypress Cove is an HOA and it's very private. And so San Clemente, even as a city, has limited jurisdiction over Cypress Cove. So as much as we think that's San Clemente, it's really not in terms of our jobs. But of course, we have a huge interest in it. And the big solution, I think, because if you think of San Onofre and lowers and uppers and middles, if you've walked down those beaches and you've ever surfed, it's a lot of ouch, right, with your feet as you're walking over those boulders, and lots of cuts and bruises. And I wear booties personally because I don't care anymore. I used to feel like it was a macho thing, but anyway, I digress. The point is, our whole entire coastline is what we're known for. The reason we held the World Surfing Championships was because we have a cobble delta called lowers. And why not create the same thing on the other end of the point, on the north side of Cottons? It has to be engineered. It's a really creative, interesting idea that we're working on with a.
So basically, it's just a bunch of rocks
submerged, but captured and extending out probably far enough that it creates also a real recreational value for surfing, and captures sand and creates habitat and retains sand on the south end of town.
I mean, that sounds like an amazing idea to me, but I don't know what the downsides of that are.
There's no downside. I've dedicated my life to these types of issues. And I tell you what, Jareen and I had a discussion with Mayor Ward and another colleague of ours from UC Santa Cruz, who's a beach erosion expert. And this is sort of our brainchild.
Yeah.
And it's a win-win-win. It's a win for the beaches. It's a win for the ecology. It's a win for recreation. And we're beaches, parks, and recreation. It's a win-win-win.
The only downside I could see.
Whether we could get it done is another thing.
Yeah, right. The only downside I can see is people don't like to go swimming at San Onofre because it's only for surfing because you don't want to splash around when you're walking on rocks. That's the only downside. But if it's saving the beaches, it's so worth it, especially near Cottons, because that's getting, the beach is so small anyway, no one's going to use it anyway.
If anything, it's only going to build the beach back up to the point that you won't have to walk on the rocks. We've all seen Sano in certain seasons where the sandbar builds up, and it's incredible. It's incredible. You don't have to walk out on rocks, but the beaches are sand starved.
Yeah.
And it has to be regional, and it has to be, everybody gets confused about this stuff. It is very complex, and there's a lot going on in the near shore. There's a lot going on, but Jareen and I have dealt with these issues our whole adult life. So it's, I think.
So is there anywhere else along the coast that they've done this? Any other communities?
Yes, actually in Ventura, our colleague did it in Ventura with an emergency permit. They were dealing with the very same issue, and they thought, let's give this a try. And so it's a really neat real world example of how this could potentially work. This isn't, to my knowledge, being done really anywhere, but I'll tell you what, it makes a lot of sense, and it's completely consistent with the rest of our coastline. And it does away with, hard rock structures that are above the water line. That are,
Yeah. And I think too, it really benefits as far as, we all know we have this federal project that we just got funding for, and it's, we should hopefully be going to construction in the next, year or so with that, which is fantastic. So we are going to have, I think it's from Linda Lane to T Street, building up of our beaches, but we really want to, we don't want to lose that investment. I think we've spent 20 years getting this project approved. And, it's really awesome that City of San Clemente was able to kind of put this project forward so many years ago, because now it gives us the opportunity that we're going to actually have sand pumped on our beaches, but let's keep it as much as we can. And that's why if we put structures in down south, then a lot of that investment that we make, we'll be able to kind of retain that.
So to repeat what you just said, what you're saying is that sand replenishment from North Beach, to T Street, and then thinking about these rocks or these cobbles farther south.
Well, the federal project that San Clemente it's only Linda Lane to T Street. Right now, there's no plan for North Beach. So anything north of Linda Lane, I don't think there's a plan in place for those beaches. And that's a problem too. We've already lost most of our beach at North Beach. And I know we've done a couple of sand replenishment efforts there in the last 10 years or so, and the sand quickly kind of moves away. And so if we do, as a city, want to get sand back to the beaches, we need to have a plan in place for North Beach and those other areas that aren't really covered by the federal project. And that's what, like, this whole feasibility study that I'm hoping that we can move forward on would really look at San Clemente from, all the way from North Beach, all the way down south to where our jurisdiction ends.
It's one thing to just pump sand on the beach. It's another if you potentially could engineer it such that you sort of anchor it, into the existing riprap. We all know what it's like in North Beach to try to find a spot on the beach that's dry, and hang out in front of that riprap. If we're going to bring in sand and try to build the beach up, there are ways with certain types of engineered fabric that we could build on. If the railway was okay with it, build that beach nourishment so that it is sort of, connected into the riprap. And at the riprap point, at the riprap elevation, the beach profile is like this, but at the riprap elevation, if we were able to kind of grow some new dune fields, the type of dune fields that would exist naturally. For example, down by where I have my office, down by Pochi in Capistrano Beach, right there between the Shore Cliffs Beach Club and the homes that exist just to the south. There is it's not pretty, but there is some very hardened sand that is basically dunes with weeds growing in it. They're not beautiful dunes, but that's an area that shows you exactly what the coastline would look like without the development. We wouldn't be dealing with these problems if our entire infrastructure from Dana Point to San Onofre was not built on the beach. We have to realize everything that we have below the bluff, the beach trail, the railway, the riprap, the beach itself, the concessions, the lifeguard, the pier, everything is built in the near shore essentially, or not quite the near shore, but in the beach environment. And once everybody gets their head around that, I think we'll start solving some problems.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking we do need to keep moving on. We had a great presentation tonight, and I know there's going to be a lot more information and things to come on here, but any other quick items as far as needs to be addressed here as far as the coastal resiliency project goes?
No,
Yeah.
I just want to say I'm looking
John.
forward to working with you all on this, and you know, Jake and Chris Webb has been involved with this, and let's just all become a little more educated, and I think we'll make a lot of progress together. That's all.
Good.
That's it.
Terry?
John, yeah, I did have a quick question in regards to, I know some of the artificial reefs have been mentioned in this plan. Do you guys have an update of, I mean, I know the Wheeler North Reef has recently been completed. Do we have any information on how that's doing or how that's changed some of the wave intensity? Or has it done anything at all? Do we have any information on that to see how that underground reef is working?
I tried to address that. There's absolutely no impact on wave energy from what's going on with that. I mean, it doesn't change anything from a coastal erosion standpoint, and to try to create structures that are, so what you're basically talking about now is not a cross shore structure, it's a shore parallel structure. And to create a shore parallel structure that's not going to be in the surf zone, because you know the beach profile continues to deepen and deepen and deepen and deepen, and where they built those reefs from the power plant reclamation or mediation, that's pretty deep water. There's absolutely no impact from those reefs on wave energy, and we'd have to stack up rock, you know, several tens of feet underwater, you know, and get it very near the surface. And then at that point, we've dissipated all the wave energy in San Clemente potentially, and we're going to have more problems with the community from that standpoint, because we'll wipe out all the surf in San Clemente.
Thank you.
Jake and Leslie, unless there's any other questions that are Cecilia. I know it's been intensive tonight, and I know we need to keep on going here because we got another big item to address.
So, John, could as the motions that I had written up, should I say those now or make those now?
Okay, I don't think this is an information package, and I don't think we want to, I don't think it would be appropriate to vote on anything at this time, but can you send them into Sam and into Jake's office and put those in there, because we can bring them up at the next meeting though. We can't do it at this time.
We can't hear those at this time. Can't hear those tonight. I don't want to wait.
Pardon me?
2 months. I don't want to wait 2 months to hear those recommendations.
I don't think we.
She can email them to us.
Either.
She can email it to us.
Aaron?
Yeah, I don't know I mean, Samantha, what would you
I think
suggest?
I think if it's something that, Cecilia, I'll lean into you. Are you looking for recommendations for a joint final vote on, Cecilia? Would that be helpful for your guys' moving forward, or would you prefer to have Doreen's comments come separately? Keep in mind that Doreen's comments couldn't be shared with the commission as a whole outside of this meeting. So it would need to be spoken to at this meeting if the commission wants to hear all of her comments.
I think that, the purpose in presenting to the Beaches Park and Recreation Commission tonight was to, get your feedback, get your input, answer any questions. And I think that, yes, if Doreen can email us those comments, then I think that will be very beneficial for us as we revise the draft before we take it forward to City Council. But it would also be helpful to have the commission weigh in on some of the things that Doreen mentioned. Recommending that the city move forward on some projects, looking at feasibility studies, talking about the importance of coordinating with other agencies. I think that, if the commission has consensus on the importance of those and wanting to, as part of the record, convey that information to the City Council, I think that can be done as part of the meeting tonight.
Okay. Doreen, could you maybe list those for us here right now, and we can take a consensus view for everybody and have it submitted.
Okay, yeah, so the three things that I really wanted to emphasize to City Council was the importance of moving forward with a feasibility study or cost benefit analysis on solutions to retain and build sand on our San Clemente beaches. So that's the first one. The second one is to recommend to City Council to reestablish spring and fall beach profile surveys, which was a recommendation from our sea level rise vulnerability assessment. And then to also install a local tide gauge at the San Clemente Pier. And that's to help us, start surveying for baseline conditions as we move forward. And then the third one is to encourage the city to coordinate and participate in a regional coordination effort to promote our adaptation strategies and talk about cost sharing and available state and federal assistance for coastal resiliency.
Is there a group right now that does that regionally? No, there isn't?
No.
So we have 3 items here. We could all, would you like to make a motion, Jareen, and say we'd like to approve that for tonight, to submit it to the City Council?
Okay, so I'll motion for those 3 items that I just discussed, send those to City Council as important for the commission, or we see to move forward. Is that?
Yep.
That's great. Can I ask a question?
Do we have a second? Before we go on, do we have a second?
I have a question.
Yes, but I'd like to hear Rob speak, I guess.
I would too, but should we have a motion? Can we have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Okay, Rob, you had something?
I'm just wondering why we're doing the feasibility separate from whatever we were going to agree to put into a coastal resiliency plan. It sounds like from your description, Joreen, that was be something that we absolutely want in this plan.
The coastal resiliency plan is very generic, if you ask me. I mean, Moffitt and Nickel has looked at some, from a technical point of view, he's presented some.
If I could please answer that question, thank you,
Sure.
Rob. So feasibility studies and cost benefit analyses are part of the coastal resiliency plan. I think what Doreen has put forward is for the council to prioritize those actions sooner rather than later.
Okay.
So we do have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Yes, I would do. The tide gauge at the pier, Doreen, what is the purpose of it, putting it at the pier?
That was something that was included in the draft coastal or the draft study. So that was, and I think it's just going to provide, give us better data of what the sea level rises are at our beaches. I don't know where in the plan.
Yeah, it's in the document. I got to page 48. I saw it too.
Yeah.
Leslie or Jake, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, right now we're proposing to use the Scripps Pier and the LA Outer Harbor tide gauge. So we've got a tide gauge to the north and one to the south, and this would be the one right in the middle, a local tide gauge if we installed one at the pier.
I see.
I think, wasn't there one there before and that it was decommissioned at some point? I think I remember reading that from the original study.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Can we have a vote? Just show of hands, how many in favor? How many opposed? So it's unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we can send that up to the city council and see what they do. Anyway, we do need to keep moving on because we do have a work plan to look at here tonight. And we want to thank everybody for being here, but commissioners, we need to stick around and new business part B, development of a work plan for this fiscal year. Okay, Sam.
Yes, good evening, Commissioner Samantha Wiley, Beaches Parks and Recreation Director. This item is looking to lay out a work plan for this fiscal year that we're currently in. So the commission and the public is aware the city's fiscal year runs July 1st through June 30th. So the work plan items are going to be discussed, and we would like the commission to vote and approve a work plan for the body. And the work plan would then be forwarded to the city council for final approval for the council to say, yes, these are good items for the commission to work on. I will ask that the chair be available at the commission or the council meeting that they do go to, and I would work directly with the chair on getting that scheduled. I would also be happy if the goal here tonight is to come up with general items and ideas. There is a template that's attached. This commission doesn't need to fill out the nitty-gritty of that, but oftentimes if the commission agrees, there can be a motion to have the chair and maybe the chair pro tem work with staff to complete the form based on the conversations this evening. That will save it from having to come back as long as the commission feels comfortable with that, those two individuals working with staff to push it forward. So the staff report does outline a couple of general kind of priorities for recreation, the recreation side of it. And then there is an attachment as well that comes from the Coastal Advisory Committee as they had their last meeting in August. And I do want to note, we do have Cynthia Mallett on the call as well. And she formally oversaw the Coastal Advisory Committee. We will be coming back to her with an environmental services update after this item. So if there's questions regarding Coastal Advisory, certainly Doreen could opine on that, but Cynthia is here as well as staff support. So I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. And John, I will send that over to you now.
Okay. Yeah, and when you look at the proposed items in there, the site-specific plan obviously is something we have to discuss. We've gone through it this last couple of meetings. I know Aaron and I were out there with the public and things when they visited the sites, and we got an earful on a lot of those. And I was hoping we could go to that tonight, but we're not going to. Fee studies for the beaches and things, review of reservations, assistance for parks and beach amenities, sports partner process. And for those who haven't been through the sports partners and things with us, those are interesting meetings themselves. But, and of course, added to all of these items for our work plan, we'll be going through the Coastal Resiliency Plan and reviewing that as it goes along. But other things that you would like to see included on our work plan for the year? Anybody?
I could start a little bit just talking about some of the coastal things. Would that be helpful?
Okay.
Okay. So if you look in your packet, so I worked with our chair of the Coastal Advisory Committee and came up with it was our committee that voted on a number of items that we recommended bringing forward to BPNR. And so those are all summarized for you on the document. So it's called San Clemente Coastal Advisory Committee Beaches, Park and Recreation Transition Recommendations. So if you go through there, you'll see some of the key topics that we were working on. So beach nourishment, which is kind of part of the coastal resiliency, what we were talking about. But there's a number of things that we had put in there to focus on, and to really get everyone here up to speed on like the Army Corps project, and developing a regional solution and what's been done in the past, et cetera. The second item would be ocean and stormwater quality. As many of you guys know, we have had a number of bacteria issues on our some of our beaches. And I think we've had problems with Pier, North Beach, and then Pochi. So those areas need some focus from us, and we would review bacteria analyses. We do monthly testing, so we would look at that every month and see what was going on with that. The LCP and sea level rise we talked about, that's kind of part of the beach nourishment. Another thing we did was environmental sustainability grants. So we provided funding for just small nonprofits and schools for small environmental sustainable projects. So community gardens, native plant gardens. We funded water bottle refill stations at schools, testing, working with some of the high schools and some of their testing programs for water quality. So we funded those, and that was a great little program that we had. And I'd like to see that continue. There was also an initiative for reduction of plastics and zero waste that we were looking at. The Clean Ocean Fee and education and outreach. We did a lot of work on like Earth Day and Ocean Fest, Coastal Cleanup Day. And, we would go into schools sometimes and educate them on some watershed items. And then also San Clemente Beautiful, which was a concept from our chair that was, really to host and co-host projects within the city. So doing like inland cleanups and things like that to just enhance our city. So those were a couple of things we were hoping to move forward with. And then the other part of the document is, it just talks about the mission of the Coastal Advisory Committee. And then also it goes over, there's another document that's the 2019 work plan goals and objectives. And that really reviews everything that we looked at, which is, it was a lot of stuff. So it's kind of a more comprehensive look at what we were doing. So,
and so you'd like to include a lot of this in the work plan this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, those were my recommendations, and then I thought we could have a discussion of what people here thought.
Just the one that, if I can say.
Comments, Rod.
Yeah, I guess the one that's kind of fuzzy in my mind is San Clemente Beautiful. Did that ever get some kind of definition about, was this a funding mechanism to give to people to do things to beautify the city, or just to encourage people to beautify the city? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it really didn't get off the ground other than we voted on the name of it. And I think the thought was that because we had the mayor of Rancho Santa Margarita come out, and he talked about, he had like a zero waste initiative, and he would go around with businesses and help pick up trash along the streets and beautify this sort of like beautification projects. And so the thought is that San Clemente should have sort of something similar to do those types of projects. And it's sort of
kind of like how we clean our beaches, right, Doreen?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could do it on, and there's other organizations that are currently cleaning beaches, but so it was supposed to be more than that.
No, I meant that concept, just like we do. We get together, we volunteer, we go on, we clean the beaches, and we can do the same thing inland.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Any other comments or additions that you would like to see?
I'll just comment in support of a couple local people that I know. It's up for discussion, but Doreen kind of mentioned one of those ideas was a community garden. And I don't know if this particular person is within 500 feet of me and I need to abstain, but she's down the street and I've known her for a long time. Her name's Desiree Nelson, and she's trying to create, a nice community garden down by the YMCA.
YMCA, right?
Yeah,
right.
and I support that, and I don't need to say anything more than that. Also, Chris Wagaman, who I've known through the soccer community, he's a local coach. He's a businessman. He's a nice guy. He's a really good dude. He has a company that makes, from what I understand, extremely reef safe, like the best possible environmentally safe sunscreens that you can find. And what he wants to do is install little sunscreen dispensers. I'm not sure exactly where, but at certain locations on the beach trail, or maybe next to T Street, or maybe in our parks, where you can get free sunscreen. It's kind of a public-private partnership, doesn't cost the city anything. It seems like a pretty good idea that we should consider. I'm just so a little shout out to Chris and Desiree. That's all I have to add.
Okay. Any other ideas? Terry, are you going to be up for a meeting with Samantha and going through this as a subcommittee?
Sure.
Okay, we'll come up with a date here. We got to do it within the next few weeks, though.
Okay. I wanted to bring up the topic of, a couple of times in different points, both on the park side and the coastal side, is increasing awareness in the community about what we're doing and what things are kind of going on and up for, kind of city business. Is there a way we could start talking about putting into the work plan a Facebook site for San Clemente Beaches, Parks and Recreation? I know we have everything on the website, but I think that just the community utilization of that is not as high as would be, if we were to use a multimedia approach or, kind of Facebook page approach.
Well, I don't think that's going to work tonight, but could we put that on the next meeting, Sam?
Let me explain a little bit regarding social media. That is, the city has social media, and there's one page that's dedicated to all city operations. This has gone on for a long time. So if there's a want for the commission to talk about marketing or get feedback from staff or get presentations, that's something that could go into the work plan. That if the commission wants to see a quarterly update on marketing efforts, that would be handled at a staff level. But I don't feel confident that council would approve the BPR commission to have its own social media page. That I feel that would probably set a precedence that I don't know that they're willing to step into. But if there's a desire to hear from staff on a more regular basis about marketing efforts, that's something that could go into the work plan. I'll touch briefly on Commissioner Benumoff's two comments as well. Those are also items that probably wouldn't land in a work plan, but they would come to the staff level. And then it would come to the commission for review if it's something that is feasible and has a potential to move forward. And not to mention the community garden concept is being included into the master plan discussion. So there's already tie-in there. So you really want to look at maybe a broader, bigger picture for when you do your work plan, not so much into the details or what normally staff would handle as well, if that makes sense.
Okay. And I would also like to say that there is a lot of opportunity to be involved in other organizations in the city for working through beautification and things. I know Aaron was down there last Thursday night with me with Pier Pride, and the Light Up the Pier is something that they've worked on for a long time. Courtney Sandcastle has been out there improving and raising funds for and awareness for that park. And so there are a lot of opportunities. And if you think that's something you would like to do, yeah, I'm sure you would find some place out there and some organization that's already probably taken on beautification of certain areas. Okay.
Hey, John.
Anything else as far as the
John, can I say
annual
something?
work plan?
John.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to speak real quick. In support of what Ben had said, you know, by the Boys Club, the last city council meeting that I attended, Gene James made the comment that it's a pipe dream. All this park stuff that we're doing, that it's going to happen. And in some of these areas, there's been a couple areas that had safety issues, like the one over by the Boys Club, that tennis court up above. They said that cracked up court has been like that for 10 years. And the citizens are still using it. So we need to make sure if this pipe dream, they call it, is not going to happen, something like that needs to be addressed because it's safety. And like that, the garden that they're talking about, that's an awesome idea, you know, for the kids and all that over there to do that. So maybe in our next meeting, we can look at some things that we know the funding's not there, we're not going to get it. There's some safety issues out there, even in the other parks with, you know, handicap access and stuff. Maybe we should look at some of the safety concerns and make sure we address that if they're not going to get the beautification of this very outlined plan that we got with all these pipe dreams.
That would be a good one to include in our work plan, safety concerns.
So I would caution the commission on opining for safety concerns in our parks. That can be a challenging situation to put the city in as we talk about safety within the parks. We have another division that manages risk and assessment of that. And if commissioners have concerns at those levels, I would ask that you reach out to me, and I'm happy to schedule a meeting with you and walk those areas.
Because that's a sporting, the tennis court. That's why I said it, the tennis court.
Sure.
Okay.
And again, the master plan item, I think in order to move the meeting forward, if I may, what the commission might want to start doing is picking off items and getting a motion and a second and an approval on items. That's going to be the best way to move your work plan forward. So if you can come up with, you know, however many items you want, that's going to push it forward. And then again, I'm happy to meet with your chair and your chair pro tem to finalize the work plan document. But do know the master plan is going to be in that work plan. It really needs to be, as long as this body wants to continue to look at it. And I think it's a critical component.
I guess.
Can I make then a motion? Sorry.
Just one more thing, because I don't want to forget other things we've talked about before. I think, you know, in general, if we're going to be redoing our parks and trying to make, especially our baseball fields and soccer fields better, we just need a better maintenance plan. We're already maintaining them. So why wouldn't we maintain them like Irvine does? You know, why wouldn't we have actually playing surfaces that you actually can and want to play on? Some of our playing surfaces I'm not going to use the term dangerous, but there's a lot of clumpy grass at a lot of different parks. And it seems to be very simple for us to address whoever's maintaining the fields. And I'm not the expert how to do them with a baseball field, but a soccer field is pretty simple. You don't want it too furry. You don't want it too thin. You also don't necessarily want to make these kids play on artificial turf all the time, because it ends up leading to injuries. So I don't know what the solution is. I'm not a field expert, but I am an athlete, and I would love for our fields to be as world-class as we possibly can make them as a public, a municipality. And let's get the pools back open.
Yeah, well, what if we put down?
Let's somehow get lifeguards. Let's somehow get the pools open in the middle of the day, when a lot of people that I know that are swimmers in the community, they want to swim, including some of the people that I know at the city. Not everybody can swim in the morning or at night. And so those are my concerns, and I'm going to stop at that point. But I feel strongly about it.
So let me
give a
speak
motion
to that.
as to what include to our annual work plan.
Well, I could start with that, John. So what we can do is, why don't we, I'm going to make a motion just for the recreation items right now. So I'm going to motion for the 4 that are bullets that are included, but then also I'm going to add in ball field maintenance as another item that we could just look at and sort of see where we are. And maybe we can just do an assessment of what the situation is with maintenance. Because I do agree. I think there's some issues, but I do think a lot of it has started to be resolved. I talked to Samantha about it earlier, about some of the baseball fields, and there was a new contractor hired. So maybe some of our concerns are answered, but I think we could still discuss it and see where we are.
Okay, well, that's a good start. That's 5 bullets then to include. And before we add anything else, can I get a second to Joreen's motion?
Yeah, I want to second it. So there's 5 items right now that we're voting on, I think, right?
Yeah. So
okay.
That's for the recreation, and then there's coastal items too. So
we'll come back to the coastal. We got the 5 items and ball field maintenance, and let's vote on that one then. All in favor of Joreen's motion to include the 4 bullet items and ball field maintenance on the work plan? Raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, any other items you would like to include on our work plan?
for recreation or coastal?
Well, the coastal is going to be part of it. So Joreen, what would you like to include on our work plan as far as coastal goes?
Well, can I say something? I mean,
yeah, Vincent.
We've talked to Joreen mentioned the the beach water quality, and I've learned so much about it and reading. I mean, for years now, about the beach water quality, and I just think that's a really, this is my first day right here, this first day on this commission, and I was thinking that's probably, along with this, the beach being saved, the beach water quality are the two of the hugest things.
That's coastal, right?
I don't know if that should be how we can push that forward or what, but that seems like a very important issue to me. I read a thing, I don't know if it was one you guys sent, that there's people in their RVs going up into the industrial areas and dumping their sewage straight into the drains. And stuff like that really needs to be looked at and the police be alerted to, because I know how those industrial areas are. They're completely dark at night. And so for people who are now living out of their mobile homes to go and dump right into the storm drains, and then that polluting, that's just part of the problem, I'm sure. But go ahead.
Sam, who do we have that deals with dumping and things like that? That's not maintenance.
There's a number to report illegal dumping on the
website.
Yeah, I'm open. Okay. There's a number on the city website under water quality where you can report. It lists what legal and illegal items in the storm drains are. And if you see something that's illegal, you can call the reporting number and they'll look into it.
Really what you're saying, it needs somebody standing out there in the industrial areas at night, checking to see if anybody's doing it. And that's the problem. These people know no one's there. They know no one's going to be there. So they
might be nothing that we're going to be able to handle in this commission.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I could talk, and Cynthia Mallett, who's our staff person here, can probably talk a little bit about what we did on coastal advisories. So every month we would look at bacteria reports. So we would see if there was any violations, I guess, over state standards set for bacteria. We looked at some, water quality improvement projects for the Pier and Pochi, which would come up on a routine basis. So that's something that we can continue to do. Cynthia would also give us updates on a lot of the stormwater quality. Cynthia, do you want to add in some more?
Sure. This is Cynthia Mallett. I'm Environmental Program Supervisor for the city, and I manage the stormwater and the solid waste and recycling programs. And it's nice to meet all of you. Congratulations on being on the Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Commission. And we have discussed about sharing the monthly bacterial reports. And our suggestion is that we would have that on a city website, a web page, and then the commissioners and the public can look at that water quality data once they're posted. So there's an opportunity for you to see the bacteria water quality reports. And then I can speak to the RVs in the industrial area, because we did get that complaint and we have forwarded that information to code enforcement. Code enforcement does provide our enforcement for water quality violations. And code has been asked to patrol those areas. Code enforcement does have staff that do work late at night and on weekends. So we have asked them to try and patrol those areas. I'm not sure if they're actually doing that, but just trying to see if they can see any issues with those RVs, not only illegal dumping, but illegal living in them, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then we do have a hotline. It's the runoff hotline, 949-366-1553. And people can report to that. They can call that 24-hour reporting hotline, 949-366-1553. You can also submit complaints online. If you go to the city webpage, the main landing webpage, there is a code violations button on the right-hand side. You can click on that, and then you can go to the code enforcement button and submit your complaint that way, or call in. There's information there. And we do really appreciate the public reporting these things, because like today, maybe as a couple days ago, someone reported something on San Clemente Life, but it was 2 days ago. If they had reported it right away or knew the reporting process, then staff has time, or there's a better response time to get to that potential violation. So we appreciate the help from the public, because the city staff can't be everywhere all the time. So it's really important that we have that hotline so that you folks can share that with your colleagues, friends, family, and then as well as report any potential stormwater violations.
Yeah, well, it seems like, is there something that this commission can do to try to make the public more aware of this, that there is a number? Because, the normal public probably wouldn't dig that deep unless there was some kind of, maybe in the San Clemente Times, a little article. If you see any kind of code, violations, please report it. I don't know. It seems like you're right. The public could be a great help on it, I think.
Cynthia, is that something you could work on or put it out on a news article?
We have advertisements in the San Clemente Times every twice a month. Right. They're not always about reporting stormwater violations, but we do have that information out there.
And as commissioners, it's something else you could do is email all your friends and relatives and live in the area and just tell them, hey, here's what you can do if you see something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, just in response to what Cynthia was talking about with the bacteria reports, my preference would be for those to be included in our packets, so we can review it. I don't know if the commissioners are really going to have time to go and look on the website to see the violations. It's really nice to see that in your packet, because you could just do a quick glance and see if we're having problems or not. And given the fact that, you know, we've had problems at the pier and Pochi, you know, continually, and, you know, we're kind of on the hook, and there's a lot of media interest. And Heal the Bay also has an annual report card that they talk about how well we're doing. I think as commissioners, we should keep on top of that, and it would be nice to just have that in our meeting packets.
Well,
Sam, do you think you could include that? Just an item?
My suggestion would be to have a link in your packet. When you get your packet emailed to you, there's the ability to provide a link to a document, so we could provide the link maybe in that document. So then it is accessible to you in that way. If
that might be the best way.
Yeah, either a link or a summary of those.
So why don't we, this commission hasn't seen it yet, but we have a quarterly activity update report that is typically just a receive and file, where it gives statistics to the commission regarding recreation registrations, ball field rentals, events, revenue. It gives a really brief overview, and it's quarterly. So unless the commissioners have a question on something, it's really just passed in a single motion. So maybe that's something we can do for this topic as well, as a single quarterly report. If there's any concerns that want to be addressed by a certain commissioner, you can raise it at that time. Staff can address it, and then we can move to the next item. Would that work for the group?
Yeah.
Doreen, would that work for you?
I think so. I mean, I think so, or just that link that Cynthia had, just because I think the reports kind of come out on a monthly basis. So I don't know, whatever is easier.
Combination of both.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll work that into the agenda. That's easy to do.
Thanks, Sam. Samantha, then I think we've kind of looked at a lot of input for our annual work plan. And if the commissioners have any other input for that, email it over to Samantha and we'll try to include it.
Yeah, I do think what you might want to consider, because this is critical, you will want to look at the environmental sustainability grants. That is something the commission should put into their work plan. The council needs to know you're doing that. That's a very important objective. And that's, if there's anything else, Doreen, that you feel would be an item that you want to keep the commission up to date on or reviewing, this is the time as a group to vote on it through a majority.
The reduction of plastics and zero waste, we had started, and Cynthia had actually gathered information. We were really trying to move forward on a bottle refill station at T Street on the back of the bathroom. And so I think that would be a good thing to sort of carry forward and kind of vote on the final design on that, and then see if we can get that funded.
Got my backing.
So pursue reduction of plastic, zero waste.
And yeah, and that would be an item under that we were really trying to start installing bottle refill stations on the coastal trail and throughout the city.
Does everybody have that little bullet on their page 2 of the that report? Because I'd like to vote on it then. If Shireen's made a motion to include zero waste, and what was the other one? The bottles?
Reduction of plastics.
Yeah,
okay, reduction of plastic. Would that be a motion for you, Doreen?
Yeah, that would be a motion for that item. I mean, I think, can I just put forward that for the coastal side, that we include beach nourishment, ocean and stormwater quality, the environmental sustainability grants, the reduction of plastics and zero waste, and I don't know if we want to put education and clean ocean fee on there too. Does that seem like too much?
No, we'll go through it.
Okay.
Put
So
anything you would
I'm just
like.
going to motion to have them as listed in the transition recommendations, unless we want to remove San Clemente Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
that might be something that a group could take on, which we do. We do have
Yeah,
groups that take
I
on
would
different
say,
things.
you know, the education and outreach, all of those events are city events that that staff participate in. So environmental services goes to those events. That's not something that the coastal the BPR commission would necessarily attend and sit in a booth. Those would be staff driven. So I don't know if that's a necessary work plan item, knowing that we do continue those forward. The San Clemente Beautiful concept seems, again, I don't know if that's really a work plan item for this commission as something that is a project is going to move forward or not. But if the commission wants to include it, you can. Clean ocean fee, Cynthia, that is her area. She would be able to say if that is something that the commission should be involved in those discussions, or if it should just be a report back to the commission and an update. Cynthia, do you have thoughts on that?
Sure. The Clean Ocean Fee Renewal, you folks may know as residents of San Clemente that in the past, our stormwater program has been funded by a property tax. And residents, property owners actually of City of San Clemente have voted themselves for that tax. That fee did lapse in June of 2020. And we will be going forward with sending out ballots next year to property owners asking if they want to vote for that fee or not. And part of that is to conduct some outreach to the property owners about the fee and what it covers. And so I think the thought on that Clean Ocean Fee project was if, or the education outreach was if any of the Coastal Advisory Committee members wanted to share that with their colleagues, families, and friends. We would probably have staff at outreach events to share the information about the Clean Ocean Fee. So I don't know that it necessarily has to be a work plan item.
Good. Okay, Jareen, maybe you can make a simple motion here, if it could be simple, and to include this into our work plan.
Okay, so then can I just say those items on pages 1 and 2, and then will be included in the work plan, and then the other stuff is just going to be staff updates, so that wouldn't be in our work plan, right?
Okay.
Second.
We have a second. Does anybody have any questions as far as what's included in that motion?
I
Ben?
did. So did we?
Oh, you seconded, okay.
Wait, did we?
All in favor?
Wait, Pat has a question.
He has a question.
Oh, you have a question.
Yes.
There he goes.
Did we remove the beach beautiful, and did we remove the? Did we remove those two things that Samantha was talking about, or did we keep them in?
Yeah, we removed San Clemente Beautiful, the education and outreach, and the clean ocean fee. So those clean ocean fee and education will just remain as just informational items.
Right.
Got it. Okay. I just wanted to be clear.
Okay, now let's vote. We have a motion and a second. How many in favor? Okay, we got that. Any other items you might like to include in the work plan? Oh, good. Then any public input, Sam? I don't think so.
We do have public input.
Oh,
there's
joy.
quite a bit, and Miley will read through that.
Oh, yes.
Alrighty, the first comment is from Desiree Nelson. Thank you, commissioners, for taking time to review all of the community's needs and wants. As a resident here for 45 years and owner of several businesses in town and a graduate from Boys and Girls Club and SCHS, please note my care for this community is deep and longstanding. I would like to bring your attention to the need for a space like the one emailed to you called Terra, Teaching Ecological, Restorative, Regenerative Agriculture. proposed for Bonito Canyon, a garden space that is really beyond your typical community garden. Our concept is a permaculture space, a food forest concept that serves as a space for education, community interaction, and learning/sharing events. More than that, it is gardening output/production. This concept is a nonprofit that will be self-sufficient in maintenance, staffing, and in paying for itself. Some of the ideas for this food forest learning center concept are community and educational events, such as teaching the importance of where food comes from and what makes it the most healthy for our bodies, to more in-depth learnings like how to compost, water catchment systems, pollinator and medicinal plants, farm-to-table tastings, all events emphasizing family involvement or being a place where some may need new friends to be that family, as well as involve local businesses to cross-promote within the community. Constraints for this concept were taken into consideration, such as gangs and graffiti. We have ideas for inclusion and contests to include signage made in graffiti as art. This project is born out of a permaculture class in town, and we spent several days interviewing neighbors in the park and staff at Boys and Girls Club. For the concerned neighbors and the community that love their park and grass for games, slip and sliding, and dog walks, etc., we took that into consideration and want to make sure the placing of the 20 by 100 foot long space works for those desires and has the ability for anyone to have accessibility where they are walking or rolling, whether they are walking or rolling into the space and through it. The neighbors we talk to then would want for their friends in wheelchairs and strollers to come through this park unhindered and with accessibility. And I would like to think all of our community would get behind that regardless. This is why we proposed it to be where it is. Our space is accessible to all, but ideally leaving the grass area surrounding the way it is. We hope this to be such an inspirational concept that it will be the first of many and many that will want to adapt and copy it into their communities here and abroad. San Clemente can be known for more than surfing and great beaches. Our community is amazing, and this would be a great space to come together, learn together, and be all included together. Desiree Nelson, Baskin Robbins family owned, and that's 3 minutes. Okay, the next is from Russell Rankin. I'm writing in regard to the rapid decrease in lap swimming hours, especially at the Ole Hansen Pool and the Hermosa Teaching Pool. It is very sad that two beautiful facilities are now mostly closed to public access due to a lack of lifeguards. Probably the most upsetting to me is the availability of the Ole Hansen Pool to now just 4 days per week for 3 hours each day. Over this past weekend, the weather was warm, yet the pool sat empty. A total loss for our community. I spoke to Samantha Wiley and recommended that the City and Recreation Commission consider raising the hourly rate for lifeguards to a more competitive rate. Currently, starting salaries at fast food establishments pay more than what the city offers to the lifeguards. Lastly, I have heard that the city has more or less slashed the hours at the Ole Hansen facility as the rental income for the event space there is making the city significant income. If this is true, the city of San Clemente has sold out to the highest bidder, leaving the Ole Hansen Pool no longer available to the community. I hope that something is done soon about access to our beautiful pools and that they no longer sit empty and unused. Thank you, Russell Rankin, San Clemente resident. All right, the next is from Ruth Martin. San Gorgonio Park is a great asset to our city, but is located on a residential street which has no infrastructure allowing its full potential. The following offers a safe and sane master plan for its usage. Resolve the existing unsafe condition for pedestrians entering/exiting the park by installing sidewalks and install a crosswalk at the entrance. If you have not received the videos and photos documenting this unsafe condition, I will make them available to you. Better yet, just go and witness for yourselves. These unsafe conditions have existed for years. However, with the recent additions of inappropriate activities, it has exacerbated the problem, which has increased the overflow parking onto residential 25-mile-per-hour streets with no sidewalks. Resolve the traffic safety on Via San Gorgonio, which includes the substantial increase of traffic created by installing 8 pickleball courts that accommodate 51 users at any given time, starting at 6 a.m., 7 days a week. Again, if you have not received the videos and photos documenting the total disregard to public safety and compliance with traffic stop signs and posted 25-mile-per-hour speed limit and unsafe left turns into the park, they are available to you. Better yet, just go and witness for yourselves. Resolve the noise pollution. This was not an issue until pickleball play was brought to this park. Again, if you have not received the videos, they are available to you. Better yet, just go and hear for yourselves. If the city of San Clemente feels it is responsible for and can afford to meet the wants of pickleball players, put these facilities in existing sport complexes, which are designed to handle their traffic and parking needs, and noise pollution does not have adverse effects on residents. I understand the city also has 2 other properties which would fit pickleballers' needs. Reduce, not add the existing light pollution. Replace deteriorating playground equipment, make it ADA compliant. Update the existing restrooms. You can actually see a woman/girl sitting on the toilet when you open the door. Duplicate Sea Summit. Update the existing picnic areas. The ground needs to be leveled, tables replaced, barbecues replaced, hot coal receptacles added, and sun protection added as needed. Duplicate Sea Summit picnic areas. Install dog poop bag dispensers/disposal containers. Stop the destruction of the regulation baseball field. Reinstall the outfield fence and scoreboard. The city spent $1,470,000 on these fields, so stop allowing non-baseball activities on the field, which is currently destroying the outfield. Use the open green space behind the regulation field to allow for 1 to 2 youth soccer fields. The Little League field bleachers need to be redesigned so users can see the field, and the score box needs to be refurbished. And that's 3 minutes. Okay, the next is from Lisa Hecht. San Gorgonio Park is directly across the street from my residence. Since the pickleball courts have been in use, noise pollution and traffic has grown considerably and is getting worse. Regarding traffic, Via San Gorgonio is now a busy street. Not only busy, but cars drive at unsafe speeds on a neighborhood street. On a daily basis, I observe cars speeding up a blind hill and making fast, sharp turns into the parking lot at the park. There are many driveways on this street. Cars must back out with limited visibility down the hill or around the bend of the street. Furthering the problem is the street parking. The increased traffic to the park has resulted in many cars parking up and down the street, often blocking driveways and making it more difficult for residents to safely observe traffic while attempting to back out of the driveways. Furthermore, there are no sidewalks into the park and no crosswalk or stop sign in front of the park. The increased traffic to the park has created an unsafe environment for pedestrians as well. There are many children who live on this street and the surrounding neighborhood who frequent the park. It's important we make it safe for them to access the park. For the safety of myself and other residents in the neighborhood, I request the city install sidewalks, crosswalks, and/or stop signs and resolve traffic safety issues to ensure all cars comply with the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. Furthermore, the noise at the park is untenable. It is audible through multiple layers of walls, even in rooms in our homes that are furthest from the park. We can hear noise from the park at all hours of the day and into the night, even with all windows closed in the house. The pickleball games begin every morning at 6 a.m., with cars speeding up and down the street to make it to the park by 5:30 a.m. The ball itself can be heard at 6 a.m. on the dot every single morning. The players yell and scream very loudly beginning at 6 a.m. every morning and into the night. The yelling is so bad that if there were a person injured or in need of assistance related to pickleball or otherwise, none of the neighbors on the street would know to help. We are just too used to hearing the yelling and screaming on our street to know if/when it is serious. For our own sanity and safety, I request the city take any action needed to resolve the noise pollution coming from this park. I understand San Gorgonio Park is a city park, but it's on my residential street. Not only that, it is a residential street with no sidewalks, with blind hills and curves, and no facilities to aid in noise pollution. If the pickleball courts must stay, It is only reasonable to make this a safe and comfortable environment for the residents who live on the street. Thank you, Lisa Hecht. Okay, the next is from Lee Struther. Hi, I'm Lee Struther and a 45-year resident of San Clemente. I represent concerned citizens that have formed a group called Friends of Toledo Canyon. The issue we are concerned about is of interest to all citizens of San Clemente because it involves a public asset that is an informal park, beach access, and public viewpoint that has been used daily by hundreds of residents over 50 years. I have submitted a more detailed letter to this matter to this commission previously. As background, a developer is proposing to develop a parcel of land at the end of La Rambla. This project has been given the name of Bluffs at Boca by planning. The proposed project is very dense and involves building multiple homes upon land that was subject to a landslide over 50 years ago. There are a number of issues with this project, such as geological instability, Coastal Act provisions, San Clemente LUP, etc., which are beyond the scope of these comments. Prior developers failed to convince the Coastal Commission that developing the property was a viable project. The reason for this note at this time is that while this project hasn't gone before the Coastal Commission, it's being reviewed by San Clemente Planning, and Planning recently issued a second notice of incomplete plan to the applicant. At some point, this project will come before this commission, and so we wish to bring this matter to your attention and point out a few critical items. Most importantly, this parcel also includes a public road, cul-de-sac, that the developer is requesting the city abandon. Planning originally requested that the applicant submit plans that did not include city-owned property. However, it appears that this requirement has been dropped and the plans are currently being reviewed based upon the public cul-de-sac being abandoned by the city. It seems this change was based upon directions given to planning from other departments. We're not sure if this is correct, but if so, it is concerning. Why would the city even consider giving up a priceless viewpoint and beach access used by the public on a daily basis, which the city owns? It seems at a minimum, the plans for this proposed development should be required to be submitted as if the city will not abandon its public property for private development. The proposed development curtails continued public use of something the city already owns and something that is used daily by San Clemente residents, as well as occasional use by guests that visit our beautiful city. We would like to make two requests. First, to be clear to planning that the applicant should submit plans that do not include city-owned public property, since it should not and may not be abandoned for private use. Second, please consider studying the permanent conversion of the existing city-owned property into what has been for over 50 years a public viewpoint, informal park, and beach access. And that is 3 minutes. Okay, the next is from Anonymous. I currently live across the street from the park, and I am in full opposition to the current proposed plans for San Gorgonio Park in San Clemente, California. I do not enjoy the idea of more noise and cussing coming from the pickleball courts that start at 6 a.m. This is unacceptable that it is in earshot of children. I also have complaints when it comes to the speeding that happens on the residential street that accesses the park. People fly up and down the street, pay no attention to any pedestrians. We do not have sidewalks on both sides, and this creates safety concerns for all the patrons and in addition to the residents on the street with direct access to the park. The overflow parking directly affects my family when they're leaving trash behind, blocking driveways and fire hydrants. The light pollution that is already in place is so bright that I had to invest in blackout curtains for rooms facing the street. This comes up again as it draws in large group gatherings late at night who are playing loud music, party noise, and the trash that is left behind. I do not believe this is a good location for proposed plans or expansion. I believe there are better options for park expansions that would not directly affect residents. Okay, the next is from Christy Pittman. Dear Park Commissioners, my concerns regarding the San Gorgonio Park concept plan are varied. Impact to the neighborhood, renovating the existing features, conserving green space, and retaining buffer zones to maintain a user-friendly environment to the park are at the forefront of my concerns. San Gorgonio Park does have an impact on the neighborhood. Increased traffic, noise, and safety of pedestrians are top priority. With the park's newest addition of 8 pickleball courts, my neighborhood has become noticeably hectic and stressed, yet no traffic, noise, or safety mitigations have been implemented. The existing issues should be addressed before the city considers more new concepts to the park. The existing features that need updating that are overlooked on the concept plan are: 1, the restroom. The restroom needs to be replaced or renovated. They offer zero privacy. If the entrance door is opened while the commode is in use, the user is exposed. This is not up to the city of San Clemente's standard. I noticed the updates at the Pier Restroom. This is a good example of what could be done for San Gorgonio Park. Number 2, the playground. The playground is aging and not ADA compliant. It needs attention. It is noted on the concept plan that the playground is an existing element. After discussions with the city, it was conveyed that a new playground is funded, however, put on hold due to master planning. Number 3, the small Little League field. The spectator area has some dysfunction, like bleachers have obstructed view, perimeter walking path converges with spectators, creating a conflict of space. Regarding green space, the current environmental trend is to create and conserve green space. This proposed plan is contrary to the environmental need of our open spaces. Trees, shrubs, grass, and softscapes provide permeable surfaces to replenish the natural groundwater for a healthy environment. Creating 10 new sports courts is a lot of concrete in an open multi-use field. Increasing the parking lot to accommodate the increase of users, again, is a lot of hard surfacing. And with the addition of a skate element, more concrete. All this increased impermeable surfacing will generate surface runoff into the ocean, with no opportunity for groundwater infiltration or benefit to green areas. The new concepts. Number 1, additional 10 pickleball courts as presented in the concept plan. This layout is fiscally irresponsible and not on trend with green space conservation. If the city of San can afford a grandiose complex for pickleball, let's do it right and build those needed facilities in one of our existing sport complexes, which are designed to handle the volume of users and activities. Number 2, the dog park. As presented in the concept plan, the addition of the dog park is right up against the spectator area of the small Little League field. This would create user conflict. And that's 3 minutes. And the last comment is from Susan DiStefano. Regarding San Gorgonio Concept Park Plan 2021. Here are my concerns regarding the development plans for San Gorgonio Park. Neighborhood impact. 1, no traffic or engineer planning has been brought to this concept plan. How can it be that traffic and street parking are not an issue and important to the park concept plan? 2, there are no continuous sidewalks in the area of the park that are needed to carry the increase of walking traffic. 3, the traffic increase that would be brought by Short Cliffs Golf Course and the development of 150 new apartments on Vaquero was not a traffic concern to the park concept or to the city. 4, noise. I have not seen or heard of any environmental impact reports or environmental noise assessments to track sounds that cause auditory discomforts. Has the city commissioned a noise assessment recording of sound levels measured in decibels used for long-term repetitive sounds? 5, for many residents in the area, the homes were built with substandard driveways by the developer. This forces many residents to park in the street. A, San Gorgonio access street directly into the park has some houses with substandard driveways. B, Calle Vista Toledo, an access street, most houses, there are a few exceptions on the street, do not have full parkable driveways. C, Avenida Vaquero, an access street, has many houses with the same limited driveway, and those residents need street parking. I'm concerned that residents will not be able to park their cars, thus make it essential that the city implement a resident parking only program on the streets needed. Impact to San Gorgonio Park. 1, this plan chooses to destroy the green space for an increased income stream for the city and compromises the environment. 2, removal of trees. Trees contribute to our survival and are essential to our environment. 3, adding more asphalt and pavement does not allow natural water absorption and destroys natural beauty of our park. From my perspective, it is very short-sighted of the city to plan this park development without traffic impact studies, environmental studies, and with no concern to the practicality of the neighborhood. Sincerely, Susan DiStefano, neighbor to San Gorgonio Park. And that's it.
Okay, we are on to item number 7, Samantha.
Yes, and John, Cynthia Mallett did have a special presentation earlier, so I really quickly want to circle back to her to give a brief update. It was at the front of the agenda, and it was gone through before she could get on.
Hi, Commission members. I wanted to mention to you that this Clean Ocean program just finished the installation of trash capture devices in 100 catch basins within the city. This is a state mandate to retrofit storm drain catch basins that drain priority land use areas, such as industrial and commercial areas. And the city received a grant from Orange County Transportation Authority for $220,000, and we had to match $55,000. And that project just finished up. We're getting ready to finalize the invoice, et cetera. But I wanted to let you folks know that it does remove down to 5 millimeters in size of trash that can get into the storm drain catch basins, which could ultimately reach the beaches and the ocean. So I just wanted to let you know that. We did also apply and were awarded a second grant as well. And we are waiting for that agreement to arrive from Orange County Transportation Authority to retrofit 99 other catch basins in the city. So just want you to be aware of that, and I'll provide you updates when that next project is moving forward. Okay?
As of right now, we have the funding to do all that.
Currently, we do have the funding to match. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Correct.
Cynthia, what is the percentage of now our city that we're able to capture trash from our storm drains? Has there been an estimate?
So that I could try and look at the land area, because we also have devices that are near the beaches that capture debris from larger swaths of area, larger acreage. So I don't have the data right now, but we are required to retrofit 560 catch basins out of approximately 3,000 catch basins.
Okay.
And so we have finished 100 of the 560.
And this is part of the trash TMDL, right? Is that
the city of San Clemente is not subject to a trash total maximum daily load. That is Los Angeles area, Los Angeles River. They do have a TMDL there, but it is a state mandate that is requiring all cities to retrofit catch basins.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Okay, we move on to item number 8, subcommittee reports. We have none at this
John,
time.
I'm sorry. I do have an update. And I very quickly on it, because I know we're getting late. A couple things on the master plan. I know the commission probably expected to see that this evening. We will be holding another public forum, or an opportunity for the public to come together and provide additional comments on the first draft of the master plan. That has been advertised, and it is, we did a mailer to the homes. It is going to be held on October 21st at 4 p.m. at the community center. We will address all 5 park sites during that time. So the commission is welcome to attend that and encourage all of our community members to attend as well. If they have comments or they have additional questions for staff, it's meant to be a little informal and have a very fluid conversation regarding the first draft of the plan. The goal then from there is to bring the next draft back to the commission in December. So that's our tentative timeline at this point.
Samantha.
So, hey,
Yes.
Samantha, can I ask, can you tell me how either somebody on the city side or the consultant will kind of go through all of the input we've got, including the input we got today and other inputs that we're getting directly at these kind of sessions, and kind of make some sense of all that and put together a plan that attempts to incorporate that? I mean, it seems like a very difficult thing.
It's a very good question. So what the commission is hearing, this is what master planning does. We get to hear both sides of wants and needs and what community members want. So that's the job of the consultant. That's why they're hired. This is what they do on a day in and a day out basis. They weigh all of the asks and the needs of the community to put together a balanced plan that serves the majority of the community. So, you know, the commission's going to get a lot of feedback as we have this evening that will continue to come in, the consultant's going to do their best job to weigh all of that based on what they've learned from the entire public input process, not just this piece alone. And keep in mind, this started back with a survey and went into other virtual meetings and things like that. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right, Samantha.
Aaron.
All right, the lessons learned from the last time we did this, I hope it's going to be incorporated, because the consultant we had was just being bombarded and he had no answers, and there was nobody really from the city that could answer something or give the right response back to them. It was just like, I don't know, that's not, you know.
Yes, I will be moderating the meeting, and I do apologize. I did have an unexpected emergency that came up, so I did send staff, but I will be moderating this meeting.
Okay, so it'll be an orderly fashion, so other citizens aren't cut off because you have the pickleball people going. It was just a little hostile.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do want to, and this is good for the community as well. This is not intended to be a debate. It is not intended to pit community members against community members. We all are entitled to our opinions, and we know that. So this is what that's giving the opportunity to be heard, and that's all it's intended to do.
And Samantha, I had a quick question too. I know some of the concerned callers were talking about CEQA. Is the master plan subject to CEQA, or will there be a CEQA document?
So CEQA and environmental findings are not part of this component of master planning. That comes once we're looking at actual design and build of a site. This is just to look at what amenities should go in specific areas. So master planning is a long process. It takes time to get to the final ribbon cutting, if you will. And there are many steps in between. CEQA and environment and any EIR stuff will be taken into consideration at the appropriate time. That's just not at this point, though.
Okay.
Thank you.
Vincent, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. This might be obvious to some of you, but since I'm a newbie, I don't quite understand this. We heard all these letters and all these concerns by our citizens, and then we kind of just, no one said anything about any of them, and no one, is that something that we're supposed to respond to? Or is it something that's just for our information that we're supposed to catalog in our brain and then think about it and talk about it later? Because I think there were some really good points in some of those concerned citizens' letters. I don't know. What's the procedure here? I don't understand.
So because it's not on the agenda and nothing has been noticed on any of those topics, we cannot discuss it at this forum because it's likely that some of those items could come back to this body for discussion. So we cannot talk about them at this forum, but I am happy to meet with any commissioners individually to talk about any of those concerns and even meet with those residents as well, if that's something. So Vincent, if you'd want, I'm happy to set up a separate meeting with you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on master plan? I have a couple more updates. Okay. I do want to give the commission an update on the oil spill off of Huntington. I have been participating in the Unified Command I am heading back there tomorrow. So do know that the city of San Clemente is being represented at the Unified Command Center. And we will be, I will give an update if I can, but I do want to know that I let the commission know we do have oil on our beaches. We did identify it today. We have reported it to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is a protocol. I want to remind community members and the public that may be watching, you should absolutely not try to clean up the oil on your own. It is very dangerous, and they do want you to stay away from it. Fish and Wildlife has a very specific and detailed protocol to manage cleanup of it, and they collect it and they do weigh it. It is valuable information as they respond to the oil cleanup. So if there's questions on that, please let me know. You can reach out to me directly. I expect that we've posted signs on the beach to notify the public. Our beaches remain open at this time. But if the public does find tar balls, they're requested to report it and not clean it up at this point.
And Samantha, what beaches have they found the tar balls on? Because I saw a picture on social media about Rivy.
So it's been pretty much from Linda Lane all the way down to Lost Winds, consistently all the way down the beach. And it came about midday today is when we really started seeing it hit strongly. We are monitoring. There's supposed to be another storm system coming through this evening, so we're monitoring that as well. Then lastly, I do want to let the commission know, we've got our carnival this week. This is fun stuff. Our Friends of Beaches, Parks and Recreation Foundation puts on an annual carnival. It is a huge fundraiser for them. And the Friends Foundation is a tremendous partner for the city and specifically BPR. They are a great donor to many of our programs. So that's happening at Vista Hermosa this weekend. That is on the city's website. You can also find it on the Friends website. And then because we're not meeting for another month or so, I want to also let the commission know we have our annual Halloween event. It's called Spooky San Clemente. That's coming up on October 23rd at the community center. And that starts in the later afternoon. We also host an annual event called Pumpkin Splash at the Aquatic Center. And that's on October 30th. That's for kids of all ages. And then lastly, into November, we are hosting what I think is our second annual doggy dive at the Ole Hansen Beach Club. That is November 27th. And that allows dogs to swim in the pool. So that's it for events. I know it's lighthearted at the end of our meeting. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them, but that's all I have. Thank you guys.
Sam, are they doing anything? Are we having the group commission meeting on the 30th of November?
Yes, that is happening. And so we will adjourn to that joint commission meeting. Yeah.
Okay. So items from the commission, no subcommittees right now, but two things on Courtney Sandcastle, which I am the representative on that too. Yeah, we will be representing at the Carnival Thursday. Every year we have the carnival slow down from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6 o'clock for special needs children, so there won't be a lot of noise. It'll be just simple rides, and we invite a lot of the special needs kids, although it is open for other children also after school. So come on down to that. And as far as Pier Pride, yeah, Aaron was there last Thursday for Pier Pride, light up the pier, and then we raised $75,000 to help improve the snack shack out at the end of the pier. So with that, we adjourn to November 30th, which will be a joint commission meeting, and then December 14th, Tuesday at the community center this time. No more Zooms.
14th or 16th?
With that, we adjourn.
I'm
May I
sorry,
hear
we
a
do need,
motion
we need
to
to
adjourn?
we need to adjourn to the joint commission meeting, and that's
Yes.
November 30th.
Thank you.
November 30th. Okay.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Rogers